Hi, friends. Welcome to Law Chat with Girja. My name is Girja Bhargav Patel. I'm a mother. I'm a wife. I am a podcaster. I am an educator. I am a businesswoman. I am an entrepreneur, and I'm a lawyer. I truly believe in the power of mentorship through storytelling, and that's what Law Chat is all about. So whether you are in 6 months or 10 years of business experience, we can all learn from each other's experiences because we face the same challenges and we have the victories and we have mistakes that we're all making. So why not lean into them and know that we're going to be fine and we're going to be okay and we're going to be inspired. And of course, this is Law Chat with Girja, so we will be talking about some law at some point during the conversation. And if you love what you hear today, which I know you will, then subscribe to Law Chat with Girja and share the love. So grab your coffee, sparkling water, or wine, and let's dive in to the next inspiring mentorship session. Hi, friends. Welcome to Law Chat. I truly believe mindset is 80% of the game, but I also know that mind can play tricks on us, and sometimes it's really hard to get out of the gutters of our mind, and about the self-doubt that comes into our life is really tough sometimes. And so hearing from others who have been there, done that, is always super helpful. Having coaches and mentors in our life, or friends who are trusted in our life, or family, can also be very helpful and instrumental in helping us getting out of those ugly places that we take ourselves into. But you're not alone, and mindset is everything. And our guest today can truly attest to the vicious cycle of a negative mindset, but at the same time, getting out of it and conquering that negative cycle as well. Raj Subrameyer is an author. He is a tech expert. He's also a career strategist for people who want to get into tech careers. He's a coach. He's a global speaker. He's spoken twice at TEDx. I am so honored to have you on Law Chat with us today. And really, I know you're very candid about your journey of your mindset. And so this is a really special episode because it's really hard to actually meet others who are open about the struggles that they've had. And, I'm really happy to have you with us today. So thank you so much for being on Law Chat with us.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here. And also, I believe that people need to share their stories because we live in this world where we see these social media influencers with their Ferraris and huge mansions, but they don't tell the story behind it, whether they're in $200 million in loss and having a social image, or it took them 25 years to get to where they are today and they don't know the struggles, right? So I believe as an influencer or as an entrepreneur, as a podcast guest, I think people should share their stories, especially in terms of their journey, so that other people will know that you're human. Everyone has to go through the same path or similar kind of path. So yeah, I'm totally open to share my story and help other people.
Yeah, I mean, even if somebody goes onto your website, if they read the About Me page of yours, you're very candid about just some of the mindset issues that you had when you were growing up. Now, if someone were to look at you today, you're very successful. You are a tech career strategist. You are a coach. You're an author. You are a speaker. I mean, you achieved a lot. But obviously, there's a lot underneath that glacier that we don't see as the peak. And so it all started off with you when you were living in India, and that's where your story starts. So if you can kind of start from there with us and kind of tell us where the journey started for you and how you overcame it.
Yeah, I think that'll be a great place to start with my background story. So I grew up as a shy, introverted kid in Chennai, which is in the southern part of India. My dad was super smart. He studied in scholarships since he was born throughout his life. Then you have my brother, older brother. He has 3 masters and a PhD, and he was like a rocket scientist kind of guy. And there I was, the average kid who didn't do well in anything. You name it, sports, dating, academics. I was average in everything. And because of this, I constantly kept trying to compare myself with other overachievers around me. And every time I try to do that, I ended up getting disappointed because I realized I could never live up to people's expectations because they were just crazy expectations. So this constant struggle and these experiences made me feel like an outcast. I developed anxiety, stress, and depression at a really young age. And I thought, okay, this is who I am. And no one ever thought anything good about me. They thought, okay, here's this dumb, silent kid, just ignore him. So I thought that was what life is. And this kind of continued till I was 19. And then I had a trigger event. And I still remember the moment vividly because I was in my study room. And then all of a sudden, my chest started hurting. And the pain was increasing minute by minute. I thought I was getting a heart attack, but now I know it was my first panic attack.
Wow.
And I just sat down and tears started pouring from my eyes. And for 2 hours, I was crying profusely and uncontrollable tears just started pouring because all these feelings which had bottled up inside me for 19 years, it just exploded at that instant of time because I had all these suppressed feelings, feeling that I'm not good enough, feeling that I don't matter, feeling that I'm disappointing people. It just had bottled up inside me for so long and I just couldn't handle it anymore. That's when I came to a realization that all this while, in the process of not disappointing other people, I was actually disappointing myself. I was letting other people's opinions be my reality. And that's when I decided, you know what? Screw this, screw society. I know I have something to offer. It's just a matter of me figuring out what that is. And that's when I decided that I'm going to take control of my life, carve my own identity, and strive for greatness. And that's when the real transformation happened. And fast forwarding to 2022, it has taken about 20 years for me to figure out different things in life. I did a lot of experimentations in my life, and then I was able to transform my life from a shy, introverted kid earning a minimum salary into an international speaker, best-selling author, and tech career strategist running a six-figure business. And this transformation happened because of the trigger event and that realization that everyone has a gift in this world, okay? And you're born on this earth for a reason. I'm not religious, but you could say I'm spiritual. I think there's a reason for our being, and it's just a matter of trying different things to figure out what that is. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing today, and I'm here talking to you about my journey as well.
Wow, you've said such important things just now. One of them is that we are all born with a gift. We have a talent. We just need to look inside of it and lean into it, actually. And that is so true. And I absolutely 100% agree with that as well. I want to kind of rewind a little bit and go back to the years where you were struggling and where you were thinking you're not good enough. Now, was the environment that you were in also speaking these negative thoughts over you, or was it just you assuming and speaking over yourself only?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, for all the viewers and listeners who are especially Asian folks, you may get this where academics is pushed quite a bit in Asian community. In fact, the reason I've been in tech for close to 18 years now was when I was born, my dad gave me three options. You could either be a doctor, lawyer, or engineer. And here you see Girja, who's a lawyer, and I'm an engineer. So literally, that's the story, right? And at least in our generation, that's how it was. But of course, in future generations, I think things are changing. But yeah, there was this constant comparison. My parents used to compare me with my brother, constant comparison. And they actually thought I had a mental problem because I was not as smart as my brother. And so comparison by my own parents, and then me comparing myself with my cousins and other overachievers around me.
Yeah.
I think those were the two things which actually added up to that stress and anxiety to prove myself,
Mm.
right? And when I had that trigger event at the age of 19, another realization I had was all of this while I've been seeing comparison through a negative lens. And that's been a problem for the majority of people even now. They view comparison as something negative.
Hmm.
But what if you could use comparison to fuel your growth. Because this is the thing. At any point of time, if you want to do something, you need to have some benchmark,
Mhm.
right? And say, for example, you want to become social media influencer. And okay, you want to become like him or her. And then you're going to map out different strategies and okay, what are they doing? And what are different things I could do to, become like them? When you try that, even if you don't become like them, the journey of trying to become like them is going to teach you a lot of things. So, for example, you'll know how to make YouTube videos, you'll know how to create content out, you'll know how to use social media, you'll know how to influence people, even though you don't have the millions of followers like the social media influencer. So, it's a journey which matters, it's not the destination.
Yeah.
And I came to that realization as well at the age of 19, where I thought, you know what, till now I've been using comparison in the wrong way. And I probably should rethink and use comparison as something which could fuel my growth. In fact, my first TED talk, which I did, was about the positive side of comparison. I talk about the 3 R's approach, which is first thing is you have to recognize what you're lacking, recognize where you are currently. Second thing is research what other people are doing, which you are not doing. Then third thing is replace some of your habits with proven habits which have worked for other people. And then it's a constant cycle of, recognize, research, and replace. And to come back to your question, yeah, I think comparison was the major thing which affected me, but I was just viewing it through a different lens. But then once I shifted my focus to use it as something to fuel my growth, that's when my life changed. And that's when I've achieved a lot of things just because of that mentality, right? And you started the podcast with a lot of, description and mindset. So this kind of aligns with the mindset thing where you shift your mindset from a place of scarcity to abundance, which means that instead of thinking about, oh man, he's doing that, okay, I should do that. Oh, she's doing that, I should do that. Instead, okay, have someone in the picture. Okay, I'm gonna, want to become like this person. What are the different things this person is doing which I'm not doing? So strategically approach this whole journey. That's when you start seeing results.
That is so much wisdom. It is, you're recognizing, you're researching, and you're very intentionally then replacing. And I think there's so much wisdom in that. And I cannot agree with you more what you have said. Comparison can be the thief of joy. And I
Yep.
say this to my children all the time, like, we look at others and we're like, even adults, like you, I feel like got so much wisdom at such a young age, and you were able to turn over that negative cycle of yours and break it at such a young age. There are people who are still struggling with that thought process. Even when you start a new business, you're thinking, oh my gosh, look at what this person's doing. What if I'd started 10 years ago? You know, Even with my own journey, I took a break in my legal practice because I wanted to be with my children. But there are times when these fleeting thoughts come through and I'm like, well, what if I hadn't? And then maybe I would have been here like my other peers. But at the end of the day, it's comparison's the thief of joy, because then you start living not where you are, but living in the what ifs or living in the past. And you're not enjoying the beautiful present that you've created.
It's funny you mentioned that. I'm going to say something cheesy
Yeah,
now. So there's a quote, which I'm a sucker for inspirational quotes. I have inspirational quotes all over my house,
we can see behind
printed
you.
out. And one of the things, literally another version of what he just said in terms of living in the present, not thinking about the past and the future. And this one, I read it 5 years ago. That's not my quote, but I quote it quite a bit because it's so true, but it's so cheesy. Don't have one leg in the past, another leg in the future, and pee on the present, right? And that is so true.
Oh,
As humans, that's what we do again and again and again. And we don't realize, okay, the present is what which we have. The past is already gone, and the future, there are a lot of unknowns. So the only thing you're in control of is the present. So
yeah.
I keep reminding myself that.
I've legitimately never heard that quote. And that is the best quote.
I know it sounds so
I thought
cheesy,
you were
but
use
it's
that for
so
a graphic.
freaking true. It's so freaking true because that is exactly what we do. When we achieve something, then we immediately think about the next thing, think about the
Yeah.
next thing, and it's okay to be like that. But one thing I've been trying to practice, which I'm still a work in progress, is celebrating your success or successes. That's
Mm.
something which I force myself to do. In
Mhm.
fact, like when I gave my TED Talks, the journey was so cumbersome where, I had to memorize it at least 70 times. I have to memorize each talk and then practice it and write it. It's a whole process. Once you give the TED Talk, then it's done. That moment's gone. Then
Yeah.
immediately, then I think about, okay, what's the next thing?
Yeah.
But instead, I have to force myself. So I set a timer for 10 minutes on my phone and then sat, and then I actually forced myself to celebrate it. So
Wait.
that's how I am. I have to do that.
I hate to interrupt this awesome conversation, but I have to stop and talk with you about the number one thing I'm asked about by entrepreneurs: contracts. They're vital to any business relationship and to protect your business. But I also know that entrepreneurs, especially when you're starting up, money is tight. But I would never want you to compromise on a strong legal foundation. So enter yourcontractbuddy.com, a website created by me with contract templates created and drafted by me and fellow industry partners. They're ready to use and easy to plug in immediately, and they are not restricted to any specific state. So yourcontractbuddy.com is sponsoring this episode, and you and your listener can get 10% off right now with code LAWCHAT. Yes, you heard me right. 10% off right now with code LAWCHAT. And now, back to our awesome conversation. I'm going to ask you, have you ever done a personality test on yourself?
Yeah, I've done a couple of personality tests.
There's a strength finder personality test. Okay?
Yeah.
If you've never done it, I will vouch my life on the fact that one of your top 5 personalities will be achiever. Mine's that too. Mine's number 1. My number 1 personality trait is achiever. It says it's literally what you just said, a person who just keeps on achieving, and then you just kind of like, you enjoy it for 5 minutes, you're like, okay, what's next? Because it's just like, that's just the crazy personality, and it can be exhausting. It can be
It is, because
to have
for
that.
me it was extreme case because I kept going on, and then in 2018, I still remember this. It was past midnight, and then I went to the restroom, and then all of a sudden everything around me blacked out, and I just fainted.
Oh,
And
no.
then my wife noticed that I hadn't come back to bed, yeah, for 20 25 minutes, and then she comes to the bathroom and she sees me unconscious there, and then she tries to wake me up, and then somehow, I regain consciousness, and then I tell her, honey, I'm not able to move. Then she drags my body, then puts my back against the wall.
Yeah.
And to cut a long story short, I had to go to the ER, and I had suffered severe dehydration, exhaustion, and extreme burnout
Oh,
because
my
of
goodness.
pushing myself so much. So that was a moment where I realized that, okay, why am I doing what I'm doing? Okay, I can get all the fame and money, but then if I don't live to enjoy all the fame and money, what the hell am I doing? So that took me into this whole journey of mindfulness, prioritization, what's the true meaning in life. I went deep into stuff. So you can see a common theme here. So if anyone you think is successful, they always have a low point in their life. Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be as extreme as things which happened to me, but there's a time of reckoning which they had to go through. All the great people you've seen, read about, they all had a low point. And then when you reach that low point, then there are 2 choices you can make. One is recognize what is happening, and then try to figure out, okay, how do I change? Or the second thing is you could recognize what's happening and then continue living the same life.
Yeah.
So the choice is up to you. And luckily for me, I chose the first option when I was young. And then I could see the transformation. But right now, I know there are a lot of people who still have chosen the second option. And I think calling, or whatever you want to call it, is to identify these folks, especially in the tech space, who believe that they don't have what it takes to get to where they want to be in their careers or personal lives. Identify those folks and then let them know that you can be the change you want to be, but it starts with starting to believe that the change is possible and then coming up with a strategy on how you want to get there, right? Because I'm a firm believer that you need to have a strategy for everything.
Yeah.
And there's a saying, right? A goal without a plan is just a wish.
Yeah.
You really need to have goals of where you want to go and how you're going to do it. But it starts with shifting your mindset, saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to learn from it. So you're on point A, then you do some things, go to point B. If point B doesn't work out, you come back to point A, then go to point C. If point C doesn't work out, come back to point A. And that's what it's all about. Whether you have a 9 to 5 job, whether you run your own business, it's the exact same thing. It's all about experimentation. I think experimentation is the key
And
to figure out
allowing
what your passion is.
and allowing space for failure, because that's what happens. That's why you keep going back to point A, is when B doesn't work out or C doesn't work out. And so failure does not mean end point. It's not a period. It's just a new opportunity for something else.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I think you have to embrace it. And especially for men, I think they are pretty bad with handling feelings because in our previous generation, men have always been brought up saying, suck it up, just suck it up. And so people are trained to do that. But then I believe only in our generation and then our now current generation, I think we are seeing more men embracing their vulnerability, showing their vulnerability. And yeah, I think you have to feel your emotions, and that's when you could really know what's happening. You could get a good picture of reality. If you just keep sucking it up and then keep going, then at some point you're going to blow up,
Yeah.
and then it's not going to be pleasant for anyone. So those are some things you really want to keep in mind.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it actually, what you said actually holds true for women also, especially in the professional space. A lot of times women are expected to have a certain demeanor, speak a certain way, not come out as too catty or
Oh,
too,
100%.
this way or that way. So you need to have a certain tone of voice and your hands should be a certain way, whatever, your face, such crap. Anyway, so I think like now a lot more, there's definitely ways to speak to people, but that applies across the board. And I think like sometimes some people are afraid to come across as XYZ because generally there's such a stereotype attached to not just gender. It could also be attached to where you're from, what part of the world you're from even. And so I think one, we need to understand different cultures and be okay with it. And then two, we also need to, normalize that this is okay too. It's okay for, a man to show his feelings and a woman to show her feelings, and they may not be as vulnerable, but they might be a little like, this is not okay. And I'm going to tell you why this is not okay. And, like, I agree with you. I think like where we are moving and where our generations to come are moving are not what they were 20 years ago even, or 30 years ago even. So things have changed a lot, and I completely agree with you.
And of course, there's always scope for more improvement, especially when it comes to women empowerment and women in tech and women in
Yes.
the corporate world, right? As a third person, I get what you're saying in the sense what women have to go through to make their voice heard, and a lot of stereotypes associated with them. Because my wife she's an IT consultant, and she's the only woman in a team of 19 men. So the
Yeah.
point is, and also I coach mid to senior level folks in tech space. And so usually the women I work with, they are the only VP or the only directors in a group of men. And it's hard. And I think more work needs to be done. And I think it starts with building awareness. And hopefully, if men like me talk about women are going through, hopefully that will open up some thinking in this perspective. But I think, again, in our generation and probably the future generations, I think they're realizing it. So yeah, we'll see how things go in the next 5, 10 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you're such a great role model. I mean, like just before we started recording this, you were telling me about your last name. And I think not only for you to be a South Asian to do that, but just in general, like this is so cool. Generally, people have like the little
Hyphenated names.
hyphenated
Yeah.
names, and you've actually combined your wife's maiden name and your maiden last name, but you know what I mean,
Right,
your
right.
family names together. So your original family name was Subramaniam, and hers
Yep.
is Meyer, and you've done Subrameyer, which is so cool.
Because I think it's unfair to expect the woman to take the man's last name or the significant other, whatever type of
Right.
relationship you're in, to each other take someone's last name. I think it's unfair. Yes, if the person is okay with it, it's fine. But sometimes I think people are forced into taking the last name because of societal
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
And we didn't want that to happen. And so the best way was to combine my name and my wife's name. My wife is American, Caucasian, German, and yeah, I'm South Indian, and that's why we combine our last name to Subrameyer. And that's also the reason why I was telling you that my company name is Chai Latte Consulting, because we want to represent diversity and inclusion. So chai is brown and latte is white, and that represents our family as well. So
Yeah,
yeah, just
I love
those
that.
are some simple ways. I'm not saying people have to do it, but
Right,
you also
right.
have to figure out, if you're doing something, is it fair for the other person as well? Because just because people have been following things doesn't mean you still have to follow things the same way.
Exactly. And it kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier about comparison and turning it into inspiration. And I think that's what, even these small things that you have done is inspiration for others. And to say, well, he did it. It's okay. I can do it too, whether it's your last name or whether it's starting a business with your wife or whether, you're paving the way for different ways of having inclusivity. I think like, you are turning that comparison into inspiration, and you're a great role model for that, so that's so fantastic. I kind of
Thank
want
you.
to Yeah, I kind of want to go back and talk a little bit about when you had that realization when you were 19 years old, and whether you are 19, if for those of you listening, or whether you are 45 and you have this enlightenment at that time, the aha moment. How was it though? It wasn't just immediately you're like, okay, I'm into this mode now. There must have been some struggle at that time. Were there conversations that you had to have, or did you just say, you know what, I'm going to show it in my actions? How did that work out?
Yeah, it's a great question. So when this episode happened at 19, one thing I did was I took a paper and pen, and then I started writing down all my fears, which I had, which has been an obstacle for me. So I had fear of public speaking, fear of being judged, fear of being ignored, fear of failure. So I wrote down all these fears. And then on the side of each of the fears, I just wrote down strategies which I thought which I'm going to follow to overcome those fears.
Love it.
And that's what I did. And then my whole goal was to, okay, attack those fears one by one, and then try to overcome them. So for example, one of my biggest fears was fear of public speaking. I was such a nervous wreck growing up. In fact, I still remember this. I was in my 8th grade. I had this crush on a girl, and then it took me like 2 months just to say hi. I was that type of nervous wreck. And once I entered the tech space, I found it really hard to convey my points during meetings, then talk to people. And
Mhm.
this kind of continued till about 2010. And then in 2011, early 2011, I got an email saying, hey, we have a software conference going on in Seattle. You should join us. We have some great speakers, blah, blah, blah. We always get emails like this, and I always delete it. But for some reason, on that particular day, I was just looking at this email because here I am saying that I want to conquer my different kinds of fears, but then fear of public speaking was one of my biggest fears, and it was nerve wracking for me. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to go to this conference, because one thing is I'm going to meet a lot of people, and no one is going to know me. So I don't need to have that fear of being judged. Another thing is we can just see what happens. So I swipe a credit card for $3,000 and I use my own money to go to a conference when I didn't have that much money in 2011 because I was a student here in the United States. Went there, and then started attending these talks, and there were some good talks and bad talks. And luckily, I attended some bad talks because in one of those bad talks, I got this epiphany saying, man, seems like anyone can actually give a talk. And what better way to get rid of my fear of public speaking than actually becoming a speaker, right? So becoming a speaker was the best way to get rid of it, because in that process, I have to get rid of that fear. So what I did was I networked with a lot of speakers. I took a lot of notes about how they prepare for it, how they come up with conference proposals. And then to cut a long story short, I took all this information. Then in 2012, I started speaking in small meetup groups. And then in 2013, after 7 months and 23 trial runs, I gave my first conference talk, and it was a huge hit. People started talking about there's this funny Indian dude who's the techie guy, but he's really funny and very motivational. You should check him out. And the rest is history. Fast forwarding to 2022, I've spoken at 100 plus conferences, done 15 keynotes, I've done 2 TEDx talks. So that's an example of getting out of your comfort zone, because that's the key. If you want to see change, you have to get out of your comfort zone. And you don't have to blindly go into something. You could still strategize it. And a simple example is what I just mentioned. And that $3,000, which I swiped in my credit card, was one of the best things I've ever done. And that $3,000 ROI is actually exponential right now. So the moral of the story, the moral of the story is don't be afraid to invest in yourself. Whatever that means to you, it could be taking courses, it could be getting a degree, it could be hiring coaches,
Right.
whatever that looks like for you. Never be hesitant to invest in yourself, because that's the thing. When you want to go party in Mexico or Cabo or places, you don't think twice and swipe your credit card, irrespective of what your financial situation is.
Right.
Why can't you do the same thing for your own self, for your own growth? So that's what you need to think about. And in fact, even when I started my business, I hired coaches. So I had a business coach who really helped me build my business. When I wrote my best-selling book, I hired a book coach who helped me write the book and gave me structure.
What's the name of your book?
Oh, it's called Skyrocket Your Career. That's the main title. And the subtitle is The No Bullshit Approach to Find Your Dream Job, Be Successful in It, and Transform into a Rock Star. So it's a book to help people to get unstuck in their careers and figure out their ideal career options and be successful in it.
Love it.
And
I'll link to that also in the show notes.
yeah, I'll also send you show notes details after the podcast interview. But the point is, yeah, it hit number 5 on the Amazon bestseller list, and then it got the 2021 Silver Medal Award for Best Nonfiction Book by Reader's Favorite. So for people who do not know what Reader's Favorite is, just like how we have Oscars for movies, you have Reader's Favorite for books. And in 2021, my book won the Silver Medal for Best Nonfiction Book. And so, yeah, it really inspired me. I knew I was going to write a book someday, but I never knew that I'll write a career advancement book first. And then definitely there's going to be a memoir about an immigrant's life in a foreign land, because I have so many experiences, and it's funny experiences and serious experiences. And I want to let people know, give insights into what immigrants actually go through when they come to a foreign land, and take them on that journey. But anyways, the point is, what I was trying to say here is you have to get out of your comfort zone if you really want to see change. And if someone has already walked through the same journey as you and become successful in it, just use their help. Instead of wasting 15, 20 years in doing something, you could literally get their golden nuggets and then fast track it. Of course, when I say fast track, it doesn't mean that you're not putting effort, but at least you're going to put effort in the right direction. That's what I mean.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. Getting a coach is a huge investment in yourself, and not huge monetarily, but it could be also, but huge in the sense of impact. Like, it really is impactful for where you are headed. I love that you were going through a negative mindset journey. There was outside external forces, internal forces also. And you were able to get out of that because not only did you identify the fears, but you also wrote down a plan of action, but you also acted on the action. We can write
Yep.
down plans all day long, but again, if we don't act on it, even if it's one small step towards it, it's not, you're going to be stagnant again. And so just a baby step. If you're scared to plunge into it, baby steps are great. And each step is victory. Each step is a success. And I think, like, I love that you are an testament to that. I mean, look at you today. You have achieved so much and you're still achieving. So it's
Yeah,
so
it's a work in
fantastic.
progress. But
Oh my gosh, I love that.
here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
If your viewers want some really actionable steps to start something,
Yeah.
here's a simple thing you could do. It's called the mind dump exercise, and it's so simple. Literally take a paper and pen, okay, and then put a vertical line through the middle of the paper. On the left column, write down all the things you love to do or you want to do. And then on the right column, write down all the things you don't want to do anymore and you hate to do. And do that for an hour in an uninterrupted manner. No Facebook messaging, no text messaging. Because this is the thing, folks. All the things you want to do in life is actually in your head. You just have to unravel it one by one and visualize it on paper. And what this does, this exercise does for you, is that it will help you visualize your strengths. And then you can figure out what career options and different things you want to do based on your strengths. So, say, for example, say that some of the things you noted down was you're really good in communication, you're really good in convincing people, you're a really good listener. Then you could probably get into sales or marketing because those are the key skills which people need. So, this is just a random example, but the point is you can figure out different patterns in terms of what you want to do in life. And whether you want to use that to get a 9 to 5 job, or whether you want to use that to start a side hustle, whether you want to use that to start a business, this will be really pivotal and a cornerstone for whatever you do. Because three-fourths of the people I talk to, they do things because other people said this is the best thing for them, but they don't realize what is actually good for them. And this simple exercise, if you do it periodically, say once a month, it's a good gut check for you to see whether you're going the right path or in the right direction. So start with a mind of exercise. You may identify 7, 8 career options, pick the top 3 career options, choose the first one, and then experiment with it for 2, 3 months and then see how it goes. When I say experiment, come up with a strategy on, okay, what are the different things you could do to become good at sales, say, for example, right? And then analyze the results saying, okay, how is it going? Is it making me really happy? Do I really enjoy it? If not, then go to the next career option, then experiment with it for 2, 3 months. And that's how I started my business. I didn't start off as a tech career strategist. I started off giving technical workshops where I taught people how to code
Mm,
for 9 months. It was good money, but I actually didn't find happiness in that. And
right,
then I
right.
started writing for different magazines and companies, their blog posts, and doing content marketing strategy. I liked that, but then it was getting monotonous for me. And then my third career option was being a tech career coach, because I remember people telling me that when I was leading teams, that they used to tell me, you have a knack for motivating people. You have a knack for making complex things sound really simple and coming up with strategies for that. Because of you, I got the promotion. Because of you, I became an effective communicator, became an effective leader. So all these things were resonating with me. So I thought, okay, let's try tech career coaching. And I started 3.5 years ago, and since then I haven't looked back. So the moral of the story is do the mind dump exercise. Number one, identify 3 top career options. Number two, number three is experiment with each one and see which one actually brings you joy. See whether you can monetize it, because that's also important. And then once you figure that stuff out, then you could figure out, okay, I'm going to do this as a side hustle first, see how it goes, and then you can make it into a full-time business. And that's literally what I did. And those are some things you want to keep in mind if you want to start a side hustle. If you want to figure out what your ideal career options are, make a side hustle into a full-time business as well.
Wow, I love that. So this is such a great way to kind of navigate yourself through a season where you're confused, where you just don't know where you want to go, where you might be where you don't want to be, but you know you need to open another door. and you just don't know how to open that door. So this is wonderful, and it seems pretty tangible and easy. I say easy in a very like a tangible way, like you can do it,
Right.
and not in a. I mean, it's going to take hard work. It's going to take determination and focus as well. But those tips are like gems. So thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for that. Now, everything that you have said, the link to your book, and then I'm also the links to your TED Talks. I'm going to put everything into the show notes. But before we say bye, I always want to ask a couple questions that are kind of like my standard questions. But one of my number one question is, what is your anchor? When things are just rough and you feel like you're getting lost in some tornado, what holds you steady and down?
It's my wife, and she's been there for me through the ups and downs of my life. And I think she's the backbone of whatever I do. And
Mhm.
whenever I'm stressed or, I need to figure out stuff, I just go to her. She's more rational than me and smarter than me. So it actually helps to brainstorm ideas off her. So yeah, she's my anchor for whatever I do.
I love that. And also, this is something I was thinking earlier is, there's a habit to speak negatively over ourselves. And I truly believe in speaking blessings and optimism over ourselves also. But there are times when that just doesn't happen. So for
Mhm.
you, I know that there was a time period where those blessings were just not coming from anywhere. But now, how do you speak over yourself?
I realized that I've been here before, and it's a journey is what matters, not the destination. I just keep repeating
Mhm.
that again and again because that is so true. In
Yeah.
the journey of giving my first talk, I learned a lot of different things. In the journey of writing for different magazines and companies, I figured out how to write a book. In the journey of trying to lose weight, I figured out a lot of things about myself in terms of how resilient I am. So I keep telling myself that it's the journey is what that matters and not the destination. So when you do things, sometimes you may not see the results you expect. Sometimes you may see amazing results, right? So I'm pretty stoic when it comes to results and stuff. I'm literally always the same emotional state. In fact, my wife calls me, don't go all monk on me. She'll say, don't go all monk on me when we have an argument because I literally am in the same plane. Irrespective of I get $1 billion or if I lose a lot of money, I'll of course there's some happiness and sadness, but the point is I'm usually even keel, and that's the way I view things.
Mhm. Thank you. I love that. And now, for those of us listening and we want to connect with you, how do we connect with you?
So there are three ways you could connect with me. So number one is I live on LinkedIn. So literally just follow me there and connect with me because I post content every single day regarding different topics we talked about. And yeah, I love connecting with new people. So make sure. So literally, if you type in my last name, there's only one Raj Subrameyer in the entire world in with that name. So you are going to get me on LinkedIn. So definitely connect with me. Second thing is if you go to my personal website, which is rajsubra.com, rajsubra.com, all my life's work, how I help people, all my content, everything is there on my website, and you'll find ways to connect with me through my website. And finally, if you go to skyrocketyourcareerbook.com, which is the book website, there you'll find links to connect with me, and also you can download the first chapter of the book for free, and then you can decide whether it's the right book for you. And also you have a lot of free templates. For example, the mind dump exercise which we
Yeah.
talked about,
Oh,
you have a free template you can actually download from the book website so
okay.
that you could just I give you samples of how it would look, how you do it and stuff like that. So there's a lot of free templates on my
I
book
love that.
website as well. So those are the three ways probably you could connect with me.
Lots of resources and lots of inspiration. I've checked it all out and it's pretty darn awesome. So thank you so much for being on Law Chat with us and sharing your story and being so candid about everything. I really, really appreciate that.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to share my story, and hopefully some of the strategies which we discussed helps your audience as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining Law Chat with Girja. I just love these kind of conversations that are motivating, inspiring, but truthful, raw, and honest about all of the challenges, all of the victories, all of the triumphs, picking ourselves back up again. I just can't think of a better way to get mentorship but Law Chat with Girja. If this was helpful to you or this was inspiring to you, please share the love. You can give this video a thumbs up. You can subscribe to this channel. You can also share this with your community by taking a screenshot and posting it on your social media and tagging GBP Law. When you do that, a lot more people will be able to see this video that not only benefited you, but also can benefit them as well. So let's share that love and let's share that inspiration. And if you want more information about what I do and other resources, go check out gbplaw.com or yourcontractbuddy.com. And I look forward to seeing you next time.